Would you like to hear more of the magic found in music? Take it from me, these things are not easy to learn, and even more difficult to teach. It's not a straightforward practice, such as arithmetic or language. Music seems to be an art where a direct approach is not appropriate. A song that is sung can vary wildly from the song that is heard. In our explorations into the magics buried in the music, we have found that the interpretation was just as important as the performance. It might sound strange, but a spell cast from a song can have wildly different effects on people and places, even if the execution is uniform across all performances. The acoustics of the world are varied. In a canyon, a song might echo for ages, where the same song sung in a forest would sink into the bushes immediately. Heavy bass will make leaves shake, but a strong enough pitch will shatter glass. Different materials have different resonances. The biggest consideration in the composition of a song is the context the song will be sung in. And considering how vast the world we live in is, it would be impossible to write a song for every context. But we are blessed with the capacity to notice patterns in the world. Using our senses, we can divine the commonalities in materials and places. Using these patterns, we can then construct tunes and beats that interface with a wide array of contexts. The medium of man is particularly difficult to penetrate with music. The world is unified in its laws. Iron is hard and water flows, regardless of who observes the phenomenon. However, the hearts of men are varied. The mind of one man might be as hard as iron, but the next man's mind could flow like water. You see, we all have the capacity to feel, albeit in different ways. We still have the same capacity of noticing patterns in man as we do the world, but you must understand the context of a man's mind before you attempt to reach it in song. You can imagine a man's mind as another world, one with its own canyons and forests. You must know where you exist in his mental landscape to discover the best resonance to use. It is to these abstractions that music best appeals to. To channel the notes through someone's mind and target their soul is where the magic really is. Does this make sense? Let's start with talking about the different families of music. You see, songs can be sung either with the intent for the world to hear, a roaring song, or their own personal intent, a silent song. The magics at play in each case are different. When a song is sung for the sake of the world, it is often done in a unified tempo. The goal is to construct a melody that all who sing benefit from. The role of a roaring song is to contribute to the ecosystem of the soundscape. Notes are played by one with the expectation that the beat will be provided by another. A consensus is needed to play a roaring song, and this is the economy of the minstrels. All who play might not enjoy the tune, but they recognize the utilitarian miracles it can produce. When a group of people harmonize their voices, they add power to one another. A sort of compound resonance that can increase in efficacy as more join in. This is the magic that moves mountains. It is what sows the fields, builds the cities, and raises armies. It is practical in its application and effective in its practice, but it is also quite sterile. It targets feelings of safety, security, and predictability. Undoubtedly staples in any civilization and a requirement for a sense of order and justice. But remember that the requirement to produce such powerful resonance is in the unity of the singers. A silent song, on the other hand, is composed for the enjoyment of the artist. It does not contribute to the minstrel's economy. Instead, it satiates the soul of the one who plays it. These songs are varied, equally as varied as the lives of the artists who compose them. It is not that the silent songs should never be heard by another. Instead, they are songs that express the uniqueness of the soul of the composer. Silent songs still have the capacity to animate the masses. They simply are not anchored in the consensus that roaring songs are. Silent songs target feelings of sorrow and joy, of anxiety and peace, and most importantly, they target our mortality. They are dangerous things. When executed effectively, they can raise that which was once dead. A necromancy that common folk despise, as we expect dead things to stay dead. These ghosts share their ancient tales with any willing to listen. Silent songs can ignite powerful explosions capable of leveling cities and empires. Eruptions that threaten the stability of nations, both the noble and foul alike. Silent songs can open portals to the Obscura, the endlessly war-torn home of the Mummerites and Umbragor, a landscape with roaming androgynous beasts and frigid mirrored lakes. The Obscura is the ideal landscape for all manner of deviant tunes to mature. It is an ephemeral container, allowing for a greater range of exploration. To many, this landscape is an intimidating place. Many cower away from the realm altogether. However, every adventurous artist aspires to carve their kingdom into the highest mountain they can find. They will attempt to haul massive boulders to the peaks for the foundations of their fortresses, a labor that often results in the stones rolling back and crushing the singer. And to know where the maximally high summit is made harder by the strange restrictions placed on entering the realm. Oddly, the portals open to the Obscura do not allow instruments to pass through. Thus, minstrels must rely on the songs they can sing with their own voice to manifest their magics here. A word of warning. Many musicians have made the mistake of believing in a grand unified song, one that combines the concerns of roaring songs and silent songs. This is an impossible song to sing. Silent songs address fundamentally different concerns than roaring songs. Roaring songs are concerned with worldly affairs, whereas silent songs are required to solve matters of the soul. It is true, life is best lived by singing both genres, but it is impossible to create a roaring silence. It is oxymoronic. It creates a dissonance that blurs the lines between the world and the mind. Many artists have tried to sing such songs, but the resulting paradoxical tune inevitably consumes their body and soul. You should be wary of singing any such songs. Projects such as The Gilded Highway are a good example of a roaring silence. Like an Ouroboros, these songs inevitably consume themselves. Simultaneous notes are played that cancel each other out. Mismatching tempos lead to discord. And worst of all, the magics at play wreak chaotic energies that rip entire kingdoms apart. The most insidious of these songs are sung imbroglio. Either the roaring song or the silent song is presented as dominant, with the other quietly sung in the background. As the quiet song grows in volume, the other will shrink. A slow but inevitable collision occurs when the fundamental incompatibility of the roaring silence comes into focus. Thus, these songs can sound soothing in their first verse, but rupture eardrums on the final verse. It has become increasingly common to see this technique weaponized. You can give the sheet music to a choir and watch them slowly rip apart as each verse is sung. A time bomb of sorts. And this emphasizes that you must read ahead and segregate the songs you sing in order to avoid such music being used against you. And to combat a roaring silence, you must construct a discordant tune that accelerates its implosion. Every verse that is sung in a roaring silence enhances the dissonance and the subsequent damage it can cause. However, an effective discordant tune can function as an early trigger, minimizing the damage that the roaring silence can cause. With the strategic placement of notes, you can add your instrument to the song in a way that twists its melody. It exposes the disharmony buried in the tune, eventually destabilizing it entirely. The sound of one sour flute can thematically shift an entire ensemble, but it takes a particular skill to do this. In order to turn a tune against itself, the placement of the discord must be precise. You must understand the song as it is intended to be played first. While you should not unwittingly add your voice to a roaring silence, there is no issue in reading the verses yet to be sung. You should understand the piece perfectly before you start composing your destruction of it. Perhaps this means taking lessons from the very minstrels you despise. Ironically, they are too naive to the discordant arts to understand that your exploration of their techniques might be used against them one day. You can use that naivety to your advantage. And after all, perhaps after training with them, you might find a few chords that resonate with you personally. There is no shame in this. I think many seem to believe that appreciation for music is binary in nature, that you must take the song in its entirety, that a song is only deserving of salvation or damnation. But this has never been the case. Some of the most beautiful melodies that I have ever heard are ones that were composed of components of lesser songs. Abandon any Gnostic interpretation on music. Once you have mastered a song, the next step is to experimentally corrupt it. The key here is deviation. Change the pacing of the beat, play the song in a minor key, or tactfully reconstruct the lyrics. There are many approaches here, and each must be explored. Leave no variation unplayed. It is wise to practice these discordant melodies away from the prying ears of the elect. I must admit, there is a fondness in my heart for discordant tunes. They are risky affairs. It is a fine line to walk between voicing the discord and letting a roaring silence rip your soul apart. I don't know if it is the danger that is appealing, or perhaps a sensation of control. But in any case, they are tools of anarchy, a disruptive element and something that matches the tempo of my spirit. I refuse to allow my nature to be bound by the constraining wire spun by the Golden Notes artisans. There is a cost to this fetish. It forces one into isolation, an alienation that is hard to weather in its onset. Discord is the enemy of harmony, and all advocates of the latter have an irrational fear of the former. Some tools make this easier. Perhaps you find yourself a Mummerite's mask, or participate in the blood magics found in the abyssal depths. But for now, I will simply leave you with a small amount of wisdom I have gleaned on the matter. Discordant tunes are powerful, both in their effect and in their feedback. A discordant tune can cut the singer just as easily as it cuts the listener. The execution of such songs must be done with the utmost respect for the art. And most importantly, there is a responsibility of owning the consequences. This responsibility must be viewed as sacrosanct. Juko, Ngoki Ra Ngomagko.